Hey there, I'm Julie, and this is the Married to Addiction podcast. If you're here, then you're probably what I call my secret sister. We're in a situation we never asked to be in and fighting a battle we never wanted to fight. We're faith-filled women who are married to an alcoholic, and it affects every inch of our lives. If that sounds like you, then this is a safe place for you to land. Married to Addiction is a faith-based podcast where I help you find the tools and strength you need to navigate your husband's addiction without losing yourself in the process. So please subscribe and tune in as often as you can, because your husband's recovery is important, but so is yours. Hello, and welcome into episode 111 of the Married to Addiction podcast. Today's episode is called It's Not a Choice: What Addiction and Rehab Really Mean. This topic is one that I feel incredibly passionate about because it brings a lot of clarity, truth, and maybe even peace to something that so many of us struggle to understand as wives of alcoholics, which is, why can't he just stop? Why does he keep choosing alcohol over everything else? Why does he drink even when he knows what it's doing to our family? I used to ask those questions too, pretty much every day. But the truth of the matter is, alcoholics are no longer choosing to drink. And they're also not choosing alcohol over you. So we talked about this topic once before. It was way back in episode 8, I believe. But today I want to explore it a little bit deeper, including possibly reframing how you feel about an alcoholic making the choice, quote unquote, to go to rehab. So over the last 4 years of working with hundreds of wives of alcoholics, I have heard on more than one occasion, how can he not have a choice when some alcoholics ultimately end up making the choice to stop drinking and go to rehab? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit more today. Let's talk about what is really going on when this happens. So first, I want to address the concept of choice in general for an alcoholic. So we tend to view addiction through the lens of willpower or morality, things like that. We think stuff like, if he loved me enough, if he was strong enough, if he wanted it badly enough, he'd just stop. I remember thinking that so many times every day when my husband was deep in addiction. But here is what I want you to know. Addiction literally rewires the brain. So that means that when someone becomes addicted to alcohol, they become both psychologically dependent and physically altered. And over time, their brain begins to assign survival level importance to alcohol. So that means that their brain starts to believe that alcohol is necessary for life, right up there with food, water, and air, like survival level. In addition to this, dopamine levels plummet. So their natural reward systems shut down. Their cravings are driven by the body's distorted need for this new normal, quote unquote. And the higher level functions of the brain, the ones that help us make rational, future-minded decisions, are buried under a mountain of chemical need and compulsive behaviors. So no. He's not choosing alcohol in the way we think of choices. He's caught in a cycle where alcohol literally feels like survival, which, as you can imagine, and as I'm sure you have seen, that changes everything for that person and for you being close to that person. Now I want to move on to something that is specifically misunderstood, as we talked about earlier, going to rehab. So when an alcoholic goes to rehab, it can feel like they're finally choosing not to drink. But that's not exactly what's happening. What's really going on is that they're choosing to go somewhere where they won't have the choice to drink. That's very different from waking up and saying, I choose sobriety today. Choosing rehab is not the same as choosing sobriety. Choosing rehab is choosing to go to a controlled environment where alcohol is not accessible, in the hope that without the constant pull of that substance, their brain will begin to settle and the desire will begin to lose its grip on them. When my husband was in rehab, I know in my heart that he would have chosen to drink when he was there. And actually, he told me that when we talked about this. If alcohol had been available, he would have chosen to drink when he was there because he was not waking up every day and choosing sobriety. It wasn't available. So instead, he was able to make the choice to do something else, which was give his brain to heal without access to the substance that it was so desperately clinging to. And that is a distinction that matters so much. Because if you're waiting for him to just choose not to drink, please know that he can't make that choice like you and I think of making choices, at least not right now. But he can choose to take steps towards recovery, and often that begins with surrendering control in a place that can hold the line for him and keep him away from substances until his mind and body are ready to hold itself accountable. So you may ask, well, what about staying in rehab? Isn't that a choice? The first thing to remember here is that everyone's situation is totally different. Everyone's physical makeup, trauma experiences in the past, etc., are all different, and all of that factors in. There are spiritual, physical, psychological, emotional, and mental factors at play for each person. So there are a million variables. My husband, for example, was diagnosed as bipolar when he was in treatment, and they medicated him for that. I think that was a big factor in helping him become more mentally clear so he could begin actively participating in his own recovery, again, with the absence of alcohol because it was not available to him. Another thing that comes into play is how much somebody commits themselves to getting better while they're at rehab. They might be at rehab, but they might still not be ready. Once they detox and have the ability to better participate in their recovery, they still have to be ready to do so. And they might have all the tools and resources and support that they need to heal and get better while they're there, but they still have to commit themselves to the process. And again, their ability to commit themselves to the process also depends on whether or not there is a co-occurring disorder underlying, like I talked about in my husband's case, or whether there's unresolved trauma that they haven't dealt with. All of those things factor in because addiction is often deep-rooted and driven by so many other factors. There's no way that you can compare one person's experience to another. There's just way too many things going on underneath the surface. So that explains why some people can recover at home. Some people can do it when they're at rehab. And some people, unfortunately, never get to the point where they can truly recover because they still have underlying additional layers and issues that haven't been addressed. So why am I doing another episode about the myth of choice again today? Because I know that this is such a widely held conception that people think that you can just make the choice to not drink. And that affected me deeply because I didn't understand why, if my husband truly loved me, he was not making the choice to get sober. And if he wasn't making the choice to get sober, then he must not truly love me. And I know that a lot of you have probably been feeling that way too. So I want you to stop carrying the weight of a decision or the brunt of a decision that he is not capable of making right now. I want to lift any shame you feel about, you not being good enough or whatever you're feeling around that. I want to lift the blame that you are feeling towards him just not being able to make the choice. And I hope that you understand now that it's not just that easy to make that choice. I want to lift any self-doubt that you may be carrying, all of those things off of your shoulders because you are not failing as a wife. You are not unloved as a wife, and you are not less important than the bottle. What is happening is that you are standing in the shadow of something that is bigger than both of you. And understanding that addiction changes the brain Helps us respond also with compassion and not confusion around it, with boundaries to keep ourselves safe from emotional turmoil. And I know you've heard me talk about that a million times. Instead of bitterness, just carrying around bitterness about this whole situation. It helps you respond with clarity and not chaos. Now, none of this means that we excuse the behaviors that come with drinking, and we've talked about numerous different ways that we can protect ourselves from those things. But it does mean that we stop expecting a rational choice from a mind that's not functioning rationally. And when we understand that and truly embrace that, that is when your healing can start to begin. So, what can you do in the meantime? If your husband is still drinking, or even if he is maybe in early recovery, or maybe he has been in recovery and has relapsed, whatever the case, this is what I want you to focus on right now. Stop trying to reason with addiction. You are talking to a disease. You are not talking to a decision maker. Also, I want you to concentrate on protecting your peace. That means boundaries. They are totally a necessity. You're not being mean for having boundaries. I know that you've heard me talk about that before numerous times. I want you to pray for clarity. I want you to ask God specifically to show you what is yours to carry and what is not. Another thing that I want you to do is try to, and this can feel really challenging sometimes, try to remember the person beneath the addiction, because he is still there. But right now, the real him is buried under layers of broken wiring, brain changes, and chemical dependency. So if he does go to rehab, great. But we still need to be realistic about that and understand that that's not necessarily going to be a magic fix in all cases. However, it is a step towards healing. And choosing to go there, choosing to have the substance forcibly removed, is still an act of hope. So even if it doesn't end up looking the way that you expected it to, I want you to keep that in mind. I know, dear sister, that this journey is incredibly hard. And I know that me talking about these things to you today maybe have stirred up some heavy emotions for you, some uncomfortable emotions for you, and hopefully also given you some sort of clarity around this. I hope that you also feel some freedom from understanding these things, freedom from blame, freedom from confusion, freedom to understand that what you're living through is not about you not being enough. I want to repeat that. I want to give you the freedom to understand and embrace that what you are living through is not about you not being enough. I also want to remind you that even though there is no easy way to go through this, and I will never tell you that there is an easy way to go through this because there's just not, there is an easier way to go through this. And that is by having clear and precise direction, guidance, and support when you need it. And of course, that is where my Secret Sister Circle program comes in. We dive deep into the subject of understanding alcoholism. So we barely scratched the surface on that today, but in that program, I take you way deep on that, really understanding what is going on with your husband. And I include that information early on in the program because having that understanding for me personally was literally the one thing that made the single most impactful difference for me as the wife of an alcoholic. So if you feel like you need more guidance and understanding around your husband's addiction, around navigating life with a husband who's addicted, please visit this new link that I have to get you straight to the Secret Sister Circle, which is Secret Sisters, plural, circle.com. Secret Sisters circle.com. That will take you straight to the page that you need to go to for more information. But in short, the SSC contains lessons, roadmaps, tools, so many things to help you walk through the difficulties day to day. These things speak directly to women who are going through exactly what you're going through. So many women who have come into the SSC have described it as a lifeline, and I would love for you to experience that for yourself as well. Also, there's a private group of other women who are going through the same things you are, and sometimes just being able to talk to women and see that there's other people who are dealing with the exact same things that you're dealing with when you thought that you're the only one can really just help you feel so much support and hope. And I would really love to share that with you. It's not a Facebook group, by the way, it is much more than that. So I would love to invite you into having access to all of that. But in closing, I want you to remember you are not crazy, you are not unworthy, you are not alone, and most importantly, you are deeply loved by the God who sees every single part of your story. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. If you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, I'm sure that you have heard me mention the Secret Sister Circle, which is my group coaching program for Christian wives of alcoholics. Today, I wanted to let you know that there have actually been quite a few updates and new things added to the SSC since the last time you probably checked it out. So, one of the things I wanted to make sure you knew about was now we have in there what's called targeted roadmaps. These roadmaps are basically a super fast line to get you the answers that you need and the help that you need for a lot of really difficult situations that we come up against. So, if you are feeling super overwhelmed or immobilized by your circumstances, you need clear direction and you need it now. You don't have time to sift through a lot of information. So, these are focused, easy to follow guides that walk you step by step through some of the most difficult situations that you face. So, no guessing, no searching, just straightforward guidance that helps you get some answers and breathe easier a lot more quickly. Now, of course, you also do have access when you join the SSC to the entire SSC library, which contains dozens of different lessons and tools and worksheets and all types of things to help you navigate pretty much any situation that you could come up against. But I did want to make sure that you knew that there are new targeted roadmaps available for you as well. So, a few of the ones that are ready in there right now cover things like boundaries, communicating with your husband, reducing the chaos in your home. There's one about your husband's addiction. There's one about your husband's recovery. There's one about navigating the future. That can be a really tough one for us, right? There's one about feeling triggered, pulling yourself out of a spiral. There's more coming as well. So these are going to be a place that you can go when you need clear guidance really fast to get you through what you're going through in the moment. So if you have not yet, or even if you have before, but have not within the last couple of weeks, I would like for you to go check out the Secret Sister Circle page on my website. So just go to marriedtoaddiction.com. You will see a drop down at the top that says programs, and you'll just click on Secret Sisters Coaching from there. I hope you decide to join us there.